What is up, my dick? Right, so startup procedure. Right bank. Your ejection that we all need. Battery on. Right click that. APU. Right click on. Then we wait for the ready light. When the ready light is on, we can engine crank. All of the electrics are powered by the right engine, so we power the right engine first, which is right click, engine crank. This number will start going up, which is our revs for the engine. Once that gets over to 20, we can start the right engine, which is a keybind. Default, I think it's right control home. And then once this climbs to 65%, that's powered up. So now we can crank the left engine by left clicking engine crank. And that will start climbing. Whilst that climbs, we can switch on some of the electrics. So we power the radar to standby, INS to ground, flare to standby, PTUT to on, and then up this side we can put a helmet mounted display on. First display, second display, bottom display, and our HUD. Bottom display, HUD. There's a power up, and this is up to 30, so we can turn that engine on, which is I think by default right alt and home, and that'll start powering up to 65 as well. So this thing here, INS, is like a navigation system. So at the moment that counts down to 0, or close enough to, and it takes about 8 minutes. If we click standard heading, that'll give some basic information to it and it'll speed it up for a fast INS, and that'll go much quicker, so it takes about 2 minutes. You don't have to check this, but if you go to menu, FCS, you'll have all these errors and stuff, but we just clear those by holding the reset button. You'll see it says advanced reset. We'll turn our rudder trim on. We can turn the APU off now. You don't really need to, but it'll turn itself off eventually. Our RWR is down here. I'm not sure what this is. Emergency, I'm not sure. But we should probably turn it on. Dispenser, which is for our countermeasures, we can switch that to on. When we switch to bypass, you can manually dispense flares and shaft. On or use the programs. We'll look into that later. We can turn the oxygen on here. I don't know if it actually helps. I know in the F-14 you need to have it on, otherwise you will start to black out at high altitudes. Now we can see that the quality says OK, so that means the INS is complete. So if we go back into our INS, and we can switch that to nav, and that's complete. Oh, it flaps. You can click to half. You can also use F to turn it up. And that's it. Release the parking brake. And off to taxi. Make sure nose wheel steering is on. If it's not, press your nose wheel steering button. taking off is super simple. Throttle up. Our speed is over here. Once it gets to 140, gently pull up, and it will just raise on its own. Gear and flaps up. Put her in a steady climb of 5 degrees. Now, on the bottom screen is our map. If we click this button here, mode, click it again, that'll turn the map off, it makes it a bit easier to read. And then on this side, if we select our waypoints, we have waypoint 1 here, which is denoted by this circle, and that is the bearing that you need to go to get to the waypoint. You also have this double box, which is our heading select for autopilot. This button here, left clicking it will move it to the left, right clicking it will move it to the right. If we left click and hold, it will shift over to the left. So we can line that up with our waypoint. We can select autopilot, heading select, and that will move us over to our waypoint. Now that I'm at 8,000, I'm going to hit barometric altitude. It won't work because of my climb angle is too high. So if I just move it down to 5, and because I've already clicked it, it will kick in on its own once I get steady enough. So now I don't have to worry about flying at the moment. So the flare was put on standby, and if I right click it again, I'll go into the on position. And I can turn my radar on as well, same way. So on this screen, we have the flare up. At the moment it's not doing anything. We look outside. This is the flare pod, and it's looking in on itself. So I press this, which is vector slave. That slaves the flare pod to this vector here. And we look outside. It's opened up, and that's the camera. So now that we have this waypoint selected, we press waypoint designate. You can see that the flare pod will shift to the waypoint. Now I still haven't changed the waypoint properly, so if I just go back on deselect the target, data, UFC, elevation, meters or feet, doesn't really matter, 0. Now the elevation is now 0. Go back to HSI, waypoint designate. There we go. Now you might not be able to see this very well because it's green on green. Make it a bit easier. We have TV up here. We'll switch that to IR. Lower that. The lower that contrast is, obviously, the more contrast you have between hot and cold. You can change it to white hot or black hot, which is better at different times of day. Here is our angle from the target. So we're at 28 degrees. Is 28 degrees to the left. Also, as denoted up here on your HUD. You have the distance from the target, 24 miles, which is also on your HUD. The helmet mount display will also show it. It's a diamond. If you're looking away from it, it will give you this arrow which points towards that target. Now, if we center of interest right, we have that diamond, and if we press it again, we'll get this box which we can move around. switching this. So wide field of view, medium field of view, narrow. Medium also has a zoom button, as does narrow. We can slew that in. So obviously we've got quite a good zoom compared to what we normally have. So we can see those targets over there. Okay. So they're 17 miles away. So I'm just gonna bank to the right for the moment, just to make some more distance. Obviously, oh, my autopilot's still on. If my heading, if this is less than 90 degrees, I'm getting closer. If it's more than 90 degrees, I'm getting further away. So if we go to the left page screen and on our stores page, at the moment we have Mavericks, 82 laser guided bombs. We also have our Sparrows, no Sidewinder, sorry, which is our 9X. We also have an AMRAAM, which is this AC. We also have a fuel pod, our AT flare. And so if we switch to the 82 laser guided, we can first set the mode, which we will keep on auto, which is already on. Fuse, which is currently off, to instant, otherwise it will just hit them. And I know 500 pounds is quite a bit, but to a tank it probably doesn't mind that much. We also have some other things on here, but most of them aren't of use. It originally doesn't come with a code. On this side, this LST is laser search, and LTD is laser designate. So our LST, which is 1688, is the laser code that our flare will look for when in search mode. Our laser designate is the code that our laser uses when designating. So at the moment they're the same, but we'll change this. So we're going to, first we have to turn our laser designator into ARM. Oh, sorry. First we have to be in air to ground mode. Turn that back around. So I'm looking at the target again. We'll get back to that in a second. So your weapons need to be armed, need to be in air to ground mode, and now we can arm our laser. Now that will be flashing. We can click UFC, so that will bring up on our UFC, which is upfront controls, and that is our laser target designating code and the laser searching code. So LS, go to designate, and we'll put this to a different one than our laser search. So we'll put 1337, enter. That changes our laser designate code. So now over here, if we click code, that'll come up on our UFC, and type in the code that we want our laser guided bombs to search for. So now we can see that that has got that code assigned to it. And step will switch to the next weapon of that type. Again, code is already selected. 1337. Boom. So now they will look for the code 1337, which is the code that we'll be using with our laser to designate the targets. Okay. So now I'm pretty far away, so we're going to keep banking until this gets a bit closer. Again, the helmet mount display is pretty good at helping us keep track of where we're supposed to be looking. Down there somewhere. Oh. And now we can see them again on our display. Again, we can change this so it's easier to understand that. Obviously it's a bit harder to make out what they are. Now my wings come back in the way again. We can see Their angle is getting closer, so we're coming in line with them, and we are now getting closer to them. So with the Hornet, it's got two weapon modes basically, which is air-to-air and air-to-ground. Air-to-air uses the trigger button, which is probably the U-trigger, and then air-to-ground is using our weapons release button. So now we're almost in line with them. 18 degrees, 15. So we'll start steadying her out. I'm just going to drop some speed here. I find that 350 is a good speed for these sorts of runs. So now I'm about 350. I'm going to turn auto throttle on, which is denoted by ATC that will pop up here. And I go back to the screen and zoom in again. Change the contrast. Now, I'm going to look at one of these tanks. I'm going to press the right sensor control again and get these two lines around it if it detects a vehicle or some sort of target. Now here we have 55, 54 release. That is the time at your current speed and altitude and such at which you will release the bomb. So we'll just fly in line with this line, which is like your guideline. Now, we're just under 4 seconds. I've just paused it. So we get this line coming down now, which is the time at which the bomb will be released. You can hold the button down and it won't release it until it's ready. So at 4 seconds, or when that line starts appearing, it's a good idea to just hold it down. So I'm going to unpause, holding the button now, and the weapon has been released. Now we can see that this changed to 10 seconds laser. And that is the time until the laser starts firing. Now we can see that the laser is now firing by this flashing LTD, and this is time to impact. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1, 0, splash, boom. T-55 is dead. Zoom back out. You can see some of them scattering about. I've lost track now because it's looking directly behind us and obviously doesn't have that angle, but it will still be looking at that general area. And again, if you think you've lost it, we can press TGT to unslave it to that target and weapon designate, or waypoint designate, sorry, and that will tell this to look at that coordinate. So now we just get some distance, so we'll wait till this is about 10 miles. And we can see down here as well. So these are racks of 2 bombs. So there's 2 left on that one, so there's 1 left on this one. You can see that here. 2, 1. So I'm at 8 miles now, so I'm just going to bank slowly. I'm still going to be creating distance because I'm still going away from them. I'm hoping to bring this back in line with them so I have a bit more time to find the next target. And we can see it's no longer looking directly behind us. This is a bit of the plane that we can see there. Maybe doing a shallower bank. It will be able to see down there. But obviously, if we're banking too much, the bombs and the wings will all get in the way of the camera. So just for reference as well, your radar elevation up and down buttons will also zoom in and out on this, so you don't have to keep clicking this button. Although to be fair, I find myself my hand on my mouse more than my joystick whilst doing these sorts of air to ground missions anyway. So you can still see that that one's been destroyed. So we can, again, when you waypoint designate, you won't be able to move. Ooh, you won't be able to slew with TDC slew at the beginning because it'll be locked onto that position. So you have to press sensor control right again, or if you click this, it will become free. But I mean, then it sort of like flies all over the place. So wait a minute. Press it again, and you get these boxes here. You press target then to undesignate it as well. So we'll go for this tank here. Again. So at the moment it's in like scene track mode, and if you press sensor control right, it will go into this mode, which is like a point track, where it tries to detect the vehicles and such. So we're 8 miles out now, so I'm a bit closer than I thought I'd like to be. But if we make a sharp bank in, it should be fine. Now, do note that there's nothing up here. After every time you fire a bomb and laser, it disarms the laser, so you have to put it back on, and then you'll have laser arm up here, which means your laser is armed. If you don't have that armed, it'll drop the bomb and it will just do nothing. It will just fall. It will just fall freely. It won't be targeted to whatever you're looking at. So again, we're just going to fly over the target using the guideline. 4 seconds to release. See the line coming down, holding the button. Weapons away. 15 seconds to laser. Zoom out a bit. Lasers on. 5 seconds to impact. 2, 1, 0, splash. Okay, so that's the laser guided bombs. Now switch to the Mavericks. So, on our stores page, so this is the main menu, stores, Maverick. That will select the Maverick, and then click it again, and that will bring up the Maverick view. It will also start activating it. So you've got 2.5 minutes till that's activated. So we'll just keep flying away, creating some distance from there. And you can see that this currently is caged. That means that it's just pointing forward. It's got no freedom at all, it just points forward. If I was to select left sensor control, so we've got the diamond here, press the uncage button, it won't do anything there because it's got no information of what it's supposed to do. But once we target something with the targeting pod, then we select over to this, it will uncage to that target. And then hopefully get itself a lock. These are the IR Mavericks, so they will lock on to a target's heat signature, as opposed to the laser guided Mavericks, which work like the laser guided bombs. So go back to waypoint designate. We are 11 miles out. We've got a minute and a half. Minute left, so I'm going to start banking now towards the target. So typically, if you're going to go somewhere, you'll have a waypoint to the target area, which is what I'm using now. But if you don't, you have also mark points, which you can create your own reference points for your sensors to lock onto. Seconds till the Maverick comes online. And we're 20 miles out. Chosen my target. Start leveling it right. Now with the Maverick we have this 66 TTMR, which I believe is 60 seconds time to maximum range. So we're a minute out before this Maverick can even lock on. But I've got my target pod slewed to the target, and it's locked in. So I'm going to sensor control left, and it's going to activate the Maverick, which you can see has now uncaged. You can zoom in with this button, but the zoom on this you see is absolute trash compared to this. But it has caged to that, now uncaged and locked on to that target. You see it has Maverick with a cross in it because it's not ready to fire. We are 23 seconds to maximum range. We press the cage uncage button now. You can see that will recage it and uncage it. We are 14 out. I'm going to disable altitude hold for this, and I'm going to dive down. We are 4 seconds out. Maverick is now able to fire in range. So I'm going to release that. Now, whereas the laser guided bomb, I had to keep a track on the target with the targeting pod. In order for the laser to keep tracking the target so the bomb can follow it. And with this, because that sensor just takes up the heat signature, I'm going to fire that one. And that's it. It just goes to that target. So it's a fire and forget. So I can just fuck off the other way and I don't have to pay attention. Splash 1. Splash 2. But you can see with this Maverick, I've been able to destroy 2 in one run. Because just let them off and they just track that target. I don't have to guide them in individually. But I do find the laser guided bombers much easier to use myself and much more reliable. So yeah, that's basically it. I think now you're a super qualified Hornet flyer. Well done.